Hi, Ian. Welcome to Venture with Grace.
Hey, Grace.
Oh,
Glad to have
okay.
you.
Okay. So let's start with, I want to start with your quick background. So like obviously, I think your background is really interesting that you are originally from Korea and like you actually did a master and a PhD and before you enter the career in venture. And why don't we start with like what are some like quick like core lessons that you've learned early on before enter into investing? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, perfect. I can hear you now. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, okay, here's let me. So sorry about this.
No worries.
So the only problem is I think I had the LinkedIn on the side as well. So
Oh, okay.
it was
Yeah,
just on the
sorry.
look.
Yeah.
So, but I heard what you're saying.
Oh, okay. We don't hear
Anyways,
Ian. Okay. Hi,
okay. Can
Henjin.
you hear me now? You guys can
Yeah,
hear
I
me.
can hear you now. Hi,
Okay.
the
I
audience.
had the LinkedIn on the back. On the back, I was actually in
Oh,
the room.
yeah. Sorry. I know it's like a
Really weird.
loop. I apologize
No
for the
worries.
technical
That's my mistake.
difficulties. Our
So I
audience
mean,
is here. Our audience. Hi, hey Jean. Nice to meet you. Okay, sorry. Okay, keep going, please.
So, I mean, I didn't finish my PhD. I mean, so my background, I wanted to be an economist. I
Mhm,
actually pursued PhD in economics.
mhm,
I was in Minnesota because my family was there. My father used to work at Cargill, and we have family up there. And actually, what's funny is I don't know a lot of you guys know Mike Ju from Bank of America. So Mike Ju, the CEO of Bank of America, is son of my father's friend. So I stayed in Mike Ju's house, and that's I went to school with Mike Ju's cousin,
Oh,
and
wow.
I was studying mathematics, economics because I wanted to change the world. I interned at the WHO in Asia and everything,
Mhm,
and in my second year of PhD, I realized that no, that was the time that I met machine learning. So
mhm,
I was doing some econometrics. Hey, I want to do some development economics, and I was just pursuing my PhD. And there was a professor, I forgot his name, a professor who came from Germany for a guest lecture and taught us about machine learning. And it
mhm,
was the start of an AI era. I don't know, it's been like more than 10 years. And
mhm,
then I was doing econometrics and realized, hey, this is the thing that I should pursue. So I dropped statistics and econometrics and started to learning about machine learning and realized, I don't want to do a PhD. I want to, work and use this machine learning better. And that's when I joined, consulting world. I left Boston College for my PhD program with masters and start doing consulting. And then I did some masters in computer science. Just to do more coding and AI stuff. And I still did consulting, but I also wanted to connect, machine learning and AI with
mhm,
consulting, as well as connecting AI with the venture capital, private equity. So I went to private equity fund called Bertram Capital and VMG Partners, and they was trying to mix the investment and AI there.
mhm.
And at some point, KIC opened their office here in Silicon Valley. They're $200 billion. I don't think you heard of them. They're a tiny fund, but uh, I was actually there in from 2022, and
Mhm,
that's when I learned about how others use AI in VC world or private equity world, and also just learning how VCs work, and realized that hey, I want to do more early stage investment, and also a little bit of helping my
mhm,
friends who are emerging managers. So that's the journey I'm at right now. I joined Sazze Partners, Primary Sazze. We're changing the name to Sazze Partners because Primary
mhm,
Sazze is too long.
mhm.
I joined there about 6 months ago as a partner and having so much fun.
First of all, you should not change the name. I like the primer thing because it just instantly remind me of Korea's like amazing makeup products. But
Oh, yeah.
anyway, I want to say like, I think that's a really cool journey. What's your outlook on like AI replacing fund managers or like, are you want not like, in the past now like the famous one would be like Signal Fire or like
Yeah,
previously it was like 10 years ago I heard about like Correlation Ventures and like there's a lot of like different VC firms that are like deeply implement on AI slash
right.
machine learning into their deal sourcing or picking funnel. Um, I guess like since like you have background in both, the economist from of the world, and then like you learn machine learning.
Yeah.
What's your outlook on like the future of investing in
So I think um, funny thing is I love Signifyer. I
general?
really, really respected them. So when I
Mhm,
was at KIC, I actually called Signifyer first. And hey,
mhm,
can I go see your system? Because I was really curious how that works.
mhm,
So I went there and Chris Pharma actually gave a deep, I think it was 2 hour
mhm.
demo of
Oh
their
wow.
system. And I actually tried to find all the like data driven VCs. I think Code2 has a really impressive team on that
Mhm.
too. Insight has a really impressive team on that. Base 10 is trying to do something as well. Good Water, obviously, is doing
Oh
amazing.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Research
these
driven
guys,
stuff. Yeah.
exactly. And everybody's trying, I mean, going for the right thing. And I'm really excited for it. But at the
Mhm,
same time, what I realized is that venture is really, really human business. Like, this
mhm,
is people business. You got to talk to people. I mean, you start with the data, but the deal is sealed between human beings.
mhm,
So I like using AI. I think who's this? Baby AGI. I'm a big fan of Yohei too.
mhm,
But I think it's really helpful that there's so much data in the world, and you can use them to find your deal and find the person that you want to talk to, and then your human interaction starts.
mhm,
So I think AI is never going to replace VC because again, we're not full information game. It's always limited in information game.
mhm,
But at the same time, there's so much data out there and so many companies, so many startups there. There's got to be
mhm,
some funnel or filter that's going to, bring you the best person that you want to talk to, the best product you want to talk to. So I think AI is a great tool for screening,
mhm,
finding the right deal for you, finding the right people for you.
mhm,
But then at the end of the day, VC is all about human relationships and people business. So I
mhm.
think it just needs to be balanced.
For sure. So what are like some skills that you feel like the next gen VC should have? Like, so who is actually will be getting access? Is that gonna be like the people with the best personal brand, or like is that gonna be like the VC who is actually analytical, talk a lot about research? So when I was working in venture in China, so like one of the top like FA company, like so like in China, it's like a completely different game. There's like the investor, there's like the financial advisor who is like bringing deal to each other because there's no trust or like no like crunch base per se. Like there is crunch base, but like nobody trusts the data on there. Not crunch base, but like it's like an equivalent.
Hmm.
And then so there's like a lot of FA going on in the middle. The top FA, like I met one of the top FAs, like basically their strategy was to pitch the company back to the founder. So basically it's like, hey, you're building this, but it could be become Disney or like
Mm.
some like really huge stuff. So like I wonder, like, and then it's a lot of like research based. So basically after you research a bunch of companies and then you like pitch this thing back to the founder. I hear about the like similar story from like my chat with like another fund manager in the US, like TLDR, it's like you do a lot of research. You showcase the research to the founder, and then you win the access that way, than just like pure brand building. Like, oh, I've heard about you everywhere. I wonder what's a core skill going to be needed for the next gen managers.
I think that's really right. I mean, that's exactly what I've been doing and what I used
Mhm,
to do as well. Like one thing that I really wanted to automate is, finding companies obvious, but doing
mhm,
some market map, understanding the space and how the space works and telling the founder that, hey, I think you are the third place of 125 companies in your
mhm,
space, but
mhm,
we think you're going to be the best one out of that. That's why we want to
mhm,
invest in them. Here's a list of your competition, and I
mhm,
think you have disadvantage, so you should pursue it. I think this should be a pre-investment conversation to impress the
mhm,
founder. I
mhm,
think finding company is easier than convincing the founder to take your
mhm,
money. And I think it's the winning game. How
mhm,
to convince them take your money at a lower valuation. And there are many ways to do it. You can be a like person. You can use your personal charm and
mhm,
all that. But I think data is something that you can actually use to persuade the founders to take your money. But at the same
mhm,
time, you got to know the space before you invest in the space. So my process always starts with an idea, a
mhm,
thesis, and we do research. So Sazze has an office in Seoul. We have interns who actually does research for us. I'm actually hiring more for that.
If
research.
you're listening and
If
based in
you're
Korea,
in
please
Korea
apply.
and work with me, let me know. But
Yeah.
yeah, and we do a lot of research on those, and and then we figure out like what the space is going to look like and who are the best players, and we pursue them.
Mhm.
And we're always ready for our thesis. So if for the inbound calls, I always look at company that I have done some research and knows what's going on, and that cuts down a lot of time in terms of conversations and understanding each other.
Mhm.
If you're listening to a founder about the new space, and I think it's too early for you to invest in those, you should have your own thesis. What's going to happen in, let's say, some space that I'm really excited about. This is of course K beauty and also some kind of retirement, well aging, longevity space. And we have a thesis. We think this space gonna go this way. Then I can tell the founder, this is how we think about it. So I think research is really important for everybody.
Mhm.
Everybody has to have their own thesis, has to have their own idea of what's going on in the space that they're investing. But at the same time, you should still be able to convince people like, hey, I know everything, but I'm a nice guy too. So it's
Mhm.
always the balance. There's no like one way to go about it, but I think it's you have to know both side of the word to be a successful VC.
Totally. So, like, I want to double click on the research part. So, obviously, you said this on the other podcast that, like, you know, like I feel like for there's maybe like a two parts on the research. One part is like, you will talk to a lot of fund managers. That's like your research process, as like you literally have access to
Right.
the smartest minds in the business. On the other hand, there's like, the literally like going home and research, like look up things on the internet,
Yeah.
right? How do you outsource the research part to other people? And then who are you thinking would actually make a good researcher? Just because I kind of feel like right now, like if you're like amazing AI person, maybe like the research could be done within seconds, right? Or like a AI tool user, like a prompt engineer. I don't know. Like, so I feel like the research kind of like started becoming not very like actually research, like or like a really great writer or anything. But I wonder, how do you kind of like hire the best researcher, and then what does that kind of look like? Like, what kind of information should they deliver to you?
So I think somebody who's really curious about
Mhm,
things
mhm,
and somebody who doesn't believe what's on surface.
mhm,
I'm trying to be contrarian all the time. Maybe I was born that way, but whenever
mhm.
some people says this is this very
Yeah,
confidently, I always question them and try
right.
to find evidence that proves that wrong. And
Okay.
and I think that's where everything starts. I read my newsletter. It's in Korean. I
Right.
sometimes write in English. I'm actually translating some of my Korean newsletter into English, which I think David actually tried to translate it too. Um,
Mm. Oh, I would just like probably do like a make.com/ like Zapier class.
I know, but the
Like
quality isn't
instantly.
good enough. But I think I'll actually try to. I'm actually using Claude all the time to
Yeah, yeah,
translate
yeah.
what's in my English blog.
Mhm,
But I spend about 2 days per week
mhm,
just doing research,
mhm.
coming up with ideas. But then I use Perplexity and Claude mostly. I don't use
I feel like Perplexity, like, I think it's a great tool, but I feel like it kind of like hallucinate a lot. Like,
everything hallucinates. I think
yeah, yeah, yeah,
so
yeah.
Perplexity is more about. I find a news article, I just put it into Perplexity and summarize it,
Oh,
and
okay.
and then I use Claude to
Yeah.
create.
Shout out to Perplexity. I'm sorry. This is like literally just like I use every tool. So like I'm just saying because there's a lot of information on the internet that are not accurate. So but anyway,
Exactly,
please keep
exactly.
going. Sorry.
Yeah. But I use AI a lot just to help me. But it reduced a lot of my time in terms of writing and also proofreading, all that kind of stuff. Claude writing and proofreading mostly. Um, but I think research. I'm looking for somebody who doesn't listen to others and have their own opinion and try to
Right.
find the right answers or evidences. My Korean newsletter is very controversial. Like I write things about, hey, Nvidia is great, but I don't think that's gonna last forever. Type of conversations. Uh,
Mhm.
hey, K beauty looks like a fad. No, it's gonna last forever. That's the kind of
Mhm.
like. And another thing I wrote about a lot, I mean, this week is
Mhm.
everybody thinks there's going to be a lot of data center and electricity needs, but I don't think that might not be the case. I think that might not be the case. There's some evidence or some small things that I feel like, hey, we believe data center and electricity will be needed a lot more needed than we actually will need type of conversation. So I might be wrong, but I think it's worth digging into it, especially the ones that people think it's true. I just love trying to see if there's any holes that I can poke. Um,
Why don't you do that in the US? I feel like from coming from Asian culture, like I low-key feel like in Asia, like I don't think like I think in the world in general, like the controversial stuff are gonna do well. But like I feel like especially in the US, like people love polarizing stuff. Like why don't you just write in the US and like translate into Korean?
Yeah, I mean that's what I'm thinking now. But sometimes, I mean, I work with I have a lot of friends in VC, and sometimes
Mhm.
we disagree. And I don't. I mean, in Korean, none of my friends can read what I'm writing, so which I think is really good. And
You test the water first,
yeah,
and then
exactly.
and
So
then you and then you set it to the rest of the
yeah,
universe.
I'm just testing the water, and nobody gets upset. Hey, I'll just modify this a little bit and make sure none of my VC friends, Silicon Valley, gets upset about it. But I'm thinking about it. I'm starting to translating some of my stuff to English.
Mhm,
I wrote some newsletters on LP side, which everybody loved. I'll
mhm.
keep doing it, but yeah.
I wonder, like, how do you think about, like, fundraising? So, like, okay, so since you have seen so many amazing fund managers there,
Yes.
um, like, I wonder from, like, a go-to-market perspective, like, I guess there's, like, 3 part of the question. One is, like, okay, so I'm just gonna quickly describe what I've seen people doing, right? So, like, first of all, like, you build a great network, like, build some angel investing portfolio. I don't really know what is, like, a portfolio that you have to build. Like, is that, like, a 20, 30 investments? Or, like, I've seen people done, like, 3 syndicate and then have a fund, right? So, there's, like, a various there's, like, a huge variation of, like, these different people, and, like, I think number one is, like, how do you build the effective LP network? Like, who is your LPs for, like, the first time fund manager for, like, creating
Mhm.
your first fund? Because I've seen people obviously, there's people DMing people from Twitter, or, like, there is, like, who bring, like, a big network from the past job. Let's say, like, the first employee at blah 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 company, and then the blah 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 company went public, or having some sort of a huge liquidation event and then raise from like their coworker. And then their third part would be like, who's like just someone super wealthy connected to everybody, right? So that's like the general theme. And then like how does a go-to-market look like to build that network in the beginning, and then that like validate if your like fund is actually raisable? Just because a bunch of rich people doesn't mean like you would be able to raise from them, right? So like what
Yeah.
does that kind of like look like for the first time fund manager?
So I think a lot of time, first-time founder managers start either they used to be a VC, they
Mhm.
have some track record. This is the most typical way. I think
Right.
Kevin just raised a huge $200 million first-time
Mhm.
fund, but they're the experts from Bessemer and Andreessen. So
Right. Yeah, like
an
yeah,
index.
the big fund spin-off,
Right,
right?
right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, those are the most typical way to raise their first time fund. The second thing is work your way up. I mean, if you go to Angel List, there are a ton of people who are doing SPVs, and you prove yourself to your LPs that hey, I can do your investment. I mean, I can manage your money and do a good investment
That's
for
a tricky part because I feel like the Angelus, like, crowd are like varies, right? So like there's a lot of people that obviously shop the secondary of like SpaceX or
you. Right.
something. And then there's like the other part of the people that are like doing a bunch of deals that are like they kind of like they have access, but like it wouldn't be their own like investment if they actually have a fund, right?
Yeah.
So because like the public markets investing philosophy is very different than private market. Like I've seen like my friends were like sharing with me that like they would see like the most like ridiculous deal like at the most like ridiculous valuation get raised super easily because of like the founder was like a famous person, or on the other hand there will be like deals that they would actually invest in, but like nobody else like knows about this guy or girl, like it's just not going to do well. So I wonder, how do you think about like if they're building coming from like Angela's perspective, like they like invest in a bunch of stuff like where other people's money, they have the hustle, but like the deal picking and sourcing are probably very different when you have a fund. Like how do they kind of convince that like, oh, I'm able to actually pull this off from like a
So
fund level?
I think, I mean, you just need to have some track record.
Right.
You should show them that you've done this for them. And I think AngelList, it's fine. I think that's how it works. It's supposed to be diverse. You just need to find your own niche. I think that's exactly what it is. And when you meet as founder, as a VC, you ask them like, how do you differentiate yourself? The exactly same question. I don't think the job between VC and startup founder are too different when it comes to fundraising. You
Right.
can prove people that you're different. You're gonna prove that you're not competing with Sequoia. You gotta tell them that you can actually get things done. So I think you just need to tell people, show people that hey, this is something that I can do better than others. For example, like we invest in Korean stuff, and I love K beauty and B2C consumer products, and we look into Korean contents and kind of stuff. I mean, Korean founders, I do better than anybody else. I can find better Korean founders in the world better than anybody else. I can convince them take my money better than anybody else. That's my thesis, and that's unique. I'm not competing with my great friends at Andreessen or General Catalyst. So that's a niche that you should show them, and you should also prove them, hey, I'm doing what I told you. I can do what I told you that I can do. I think it's about showing people that what you can do, and raising funds. I mean, in 2021, it was much easier to raise a fund without any track record. You can just tell them, hey, I want to do this, and I think I'm going to be good. It was fine back then, and now is a different time. We have a higher interest rate. You don't have to do VC. You can just put your money in private credit and make more money than I think 80% of VCs in the world. So now you have to not just convince them like logically, you still have to show them in numbers. So I think that's one thing, and the other thing is it's also very much of a human network and personal relationship, and you just need to show your life to people. And that's one of the reasons I think you're doing this podcast. And also I'm writing my own newsletters, because you should show people and the world that how you think about it, and find people who believes in you, who agrees with you. I think same goes for the fundraising. You just need to find the one VC that's going to trust you and believe in your dream or your mission. And VC fund is not that different when it comes to first fund. You just need to find a group of LPs, a few LPs actually, or high net worth individuals that likes how you roll, like that likes the trajectory of life, and then that will trust you for the next 15 years, and who loves how you think about investments. So I think first track record to some extent, and second, show them, gain some trust, like build some relationship, and third, actually convince them to give you the money and trust you for 15 years. I think that's the hardest part. I mean, the third thing is actually like find your niche and show them your uniqueness, because there are too many funds. And then, I mean, same goes for startups. There are too many startups doing different things, and there are too many funds that are doing different things. You just need to show them why you can do this better than anybody else.
Mm. I wonder from the go-to-market perspective,
Mhm.
meaning like go to LPs from like a
Yeah.
founder perspective. What's your thought on outbound and inbound, and then what's your thought on the deck? Like, is the
So
deck even matter?
I think deck matters, but I think it's really really about warm intro. Like
Mhm,
that's why you just need to find one person who's going to trust you and is a good LP and actually refer you to their friends.
mhm,
That's I think cold emails work sometimes as long as your thesis is very unique.
mhm.
Then I mean, if your thesis is a really good hook, I mean, people are going to bite and respond to you. And
I have a question on this. So, like, I totally agree with you on the warm intro. Of course, if you can get 2,000 warm intro, that's amazing on
yeah,
your end. But like a lot of the people that I've seen that are doing very successful, like they didn't come from like a big network. They were just code DMing their way up.
yeah.
It's kind of like became a numbers game. But I wonder for the like warm intro, like how do you ask at the beginning? And then how many people do you have to ask to get to the first person to say yes? Like what's a normie number?
Wow, I don't know how I don't have the statistics,
Mhm.
but you ask as many as you can. I think warm intro, like you just need to have friends.
You
Who
just need to have friends.
yeah,
Wow.
I mean, you just have friends. Like you have to make friends all the time. That's part of the job. Like you should be friends with everybody, and you should tell them how you think about the word. And it just takes time. You can't just tell them, "Hey, you're my friend from today, and I think
Yeah,
this
yeah,
way.
yeah.
You refer me to this guy." No, like you should be in this word in this field enough to watch what's happening and invest in some of those. And I think it's 2021 was a weird time that people who doesn't have a network, who doesn't have track record, can actually raise money. Um, it was crazy. I don't think we're gonna have the same time ever again, like in the next 10 years. Everybody's getting burned by that, and that hurts the entire industry as well.
Mhm.
And I
Oh,
think I saw the statistics. I mean, I went to all this like fund of funds, AGMs and kind of stuff. I think there were about 1,000 new BCs that started during the time between 2021 and 2022 or something. About a new thousand new funds, which I think was crazy.
mhm,
Um, I don't want to say this like in front of everybody, but I think all this it's going to be hard for the emerging managers to survive right now. But
mhm,
it also makes sense. It also says that if you find the right ones, this is the hardest time to survive. And if you find the surviving ones, they're going to be very successful for the next 15 years. That's why I'm really, really bullish about emerging managers. So it's hard work and it's not the best time to fundraise, but it might also be a really good time to um, actually find a good manager to work with.
um,
Because nobody's doing it, nobody's investing in emerging managers. So now might be a good time as well. Because if you were one of the 2021 LPs who invest in everybody, I don't know how that's going to end up.
um, what's your thought on, like, the people who don't know about venture investing in emerging managers? So, like, I mean, like, raising funding from quote unquote normies, like, how do you think about that? Like, is that like a good strategy or not? And the other part is like, what's the art of asking? Do you just ask, hey, like, can you give me some advice? Or like, do you ask, hey, you want to invest? Here's my deck. Like,
Mm,
what's the process gonna be? Like, if you just send a deck to like 1,000 people, maybe like two people open it. Um,
right.
what's a journey of like actually
So
landing on you?
mhm. I think warm intro, I can cover that later, but I think venture is really, really hard asset.
Mhm,
It's very hard and such a long asset. So you have to work with people who trust you. I mean, who knows how venture works,
mhm,
because otherwise they're gonna have buyer's remorse after 2 years,
mhm,
and that's not something that you want to see.
mhm,
Because you got to think about which LPs you're picking. You can't just get money from everybody, and because this is a 15-year marriage. I mean, it's actually longer than I think Samir talked about this. Samir Kaji talked about this.
mhm.
A venture investment is longer than a
Mm,
average American marriage.
right, right, right.
It's 15 years, and
Yeah.
at least 10 years, 12 years. So you just need to find an LP who knows they're getting into this type of long commitment. And there's also J curve. It looks like it's going to look like your fund is losing money for the first 2 years,
Mhm,
but then that just takes time for it to come back. So you need LPs who understands that and who's not going to be frightened by that and run away.
mhm,
And that's one thing. So that's why I think you shouldn't be raising venture money from anybody. You just need to find somebody sophisticated and understand you and will be there without complaining for 15 years for you. And the other part is warm intro, art of asking. I think it's like sales. It's exactly like sales. I mean, it's just plain sales. The only thing is you just
it's I love that, but
yeah,
keep going, sorry, yeah.
100% sales. This is not different from like selling a car at a car dealership.
Oh,
You
wow.
just need to find the right customer and give them the right product. And the same goes for warm intro. Like if you're asking your friend about, hey, here's the deck, then you just need to make sure you can't just give somebody who doesn't need a car and sell a car to them. You just need
Right.
to find a person who needs a car, the exact model that you're selling. Let's say you're selling a Tesla. You just need to find somebody who likes electric vehicle, who likes FSD, who really is bullish on, autonomous driving. Then
Right.
you need to find the person and sell it to them. And that's the journey that you have to go through. But it's, again, same as the founders. Founders need to find some VCs who believe in the mission that they're working on and sell it to them.
Mhm.
Again, it's just sales. You just need to find a good product. I mean, you just need to have a good product and find the right customer and sell it to them. So I think that's mostly it. Like warm intros, yes, you can ask your friends, but I don't ask my friends for a warm intro that if I don't think my product is good fit for them, because that's waste of time for everybody.
Mhm.
And that warm intros are actually a limited credit. You cannot ask your friend warm intro forever because they
Right.
also have their credit. People are not starting to decline your intros if you're keep giving the deals to your friends. So
Yeah,
just make sure that the introduction that's coming, whoever introduces you or refers helping you out gets benefit out of introducing you to their friends, because then you should be a good product.
for sure.
You should tell them like, hey, I want to talk to this person because this person seems like investing in this kind of thing, looks like she likes K beauty,
Mhm.
maybe interested in investing in K beauty stuff. So you just need to find the right fit.
How do you filter out the right fit?
Mm. Again, you just need to make a lot of friends. Go to events, find people, and talk to them. And
Mhm.
again, I think sales is 90% listening.
Mhm.
I actually listen to a lot of podcasts that talks about like regular sales. It's
Mhm.
not about telling them, hey, how great your product is, and
Mhm.
it's more about understanding what do you need, what do they need, and if I think they're not a good fit, I just don't pitch because and
Mhm.
just become friends and come back later when I think they need my product. Because if you're
Right.
pushing it, you're never going to get you're never going to be able to build a relationship with that person. So
Totally. I wanna get into, like, the nitty-gritty on, like, sure, listening, right? Like, making a lot of friends. Um, I think there's 2 part of the question is, like, which room do you get in to, like, batch producing the potential people? Like, so, like, obviously, like, for you, like, let's say, like, I'm using K-beauty as an example since we talk about K-beauty a lot on this
right,
podcast right now.
yeah,
So, let's say you went to someone who is let's say, like, you should go to maybe, like, call it, like, the Sephora, like, the crew, like, not crew, but, like, CEW, like, I don't know, the beauty conference or whatever. Maybe a lot of, like, the really wealthy, like, C-level from top beauty company, they may interested in investing in your fund, right? So maybe that's, like, a way, but, like, how do you really find that conference plus, like, 1,000 or, like, how do you test out, like, who will invest, not invest, like, and at the very beginning to, like, double down on that process, and after having the first meeting, what does that look like to get a second meeting? So,
mm,
like, I've heard a lot of advice are like, "Hey, after you get the first meeting, your goal is to get to the second meeting, say something interesting." But I'm like, "Dude, we're selling like not we like first of all, this podcast is for entertainment and informational, like, well, learning process only. It's not
mm,
like financial advice." So so for example, let's say if a person like, you are like or as an emerging manager or as a fund manager, everybody's role is to like selling a financial product. This is not like, you're selling a face cream. Like people buy it or not buy it immediately, but it's more like of a long-term thing. It's like a buying a house. It's like, "Oh, okay, so like I like this one, but I don't like that one." And then you show them like 10 houses and then like see if they will buy. Like I wonder how do you land the second meeting, third meeting, and then which meeting do you even close? Like, some people close on the first one, some people close at the 25th one. Do you just go for the 25th one or
so I think there's no one, silver bullet. To be honest, like every LP is different, every VC is different,
Mhm.
everybody's different, every customers are different, every dealers are different. So it's, I mean, going for the second meeting, I think it's mostly about following up with the better materials. So
Mhm.
pitch. I mean, if you meet person at a network meeting, tell them about your story, they liked it. Sometimes people pretend that they like it so that they can leave the conversation. Uh, I've
So
done that.
real, so real.
Yeah. But and then you just come up, follow up with the interesting materials. Like, hey, here's something that I talked about. Hey, I met some LPs that raised last week, and I just follow up with them. Hey, here's some information about K Beauty. Hey, here's some information about this AI company that we invested in, and just keep dragging them into your interesting stuff before getting into a fundraising. Just ask them, show them great things, show them great deals, and maybe show them some co-investment that you have, or interesting founders, or interesting friend VC that you like, because it's just keeping them interested in you and coming back to you. I think that's all about it. And just keep giving them interesting stuff. And and the other thing is, this is something that I think is also very important. You should make sure that they want to be your friends. Like, you
Mhm,
should just try to make them be your friends, because you're going to be very successful in 10 years. That's the vibe that you should give them.
mhm,
Hey, if I don't invest in this fund, I won't be able to follow this guy or work with this guy, but I think this guy will be a very successful guy in the next 10 years. That's the vibe that you should give them. And if I don't invest in this round or this fund, I'm not going to get an allocation next year, because this guy will do a really good job. I think that's the vibe that you should give them. I'm
mhm.
not saying you should pretend or make up something, but that's the like confidence or information or research that you have done and product that you're proud of. That should be the FOMO like element that you should give to the LPs. Because I felt that a lot too when I was doing LP. And this person is amazing. I want to be friends with this guy. I want to work with this guy for the next 15 years. And these guys are, of course, have some good track record and good everything, and become friends with them. And I don't know, it's again people business, regular sales, nothing fancy. We think we're I mean, sometimes VCs think too serious about themselves. I am one of them too, but we're just salespeople. We're selling our product to our LPs, we're selling our product to our founders. We're just selling to both sides of the word, and that's a 100% people business.
I love that, and I wonder what are some, like, people that like, I mean, I don't think we should name any specific person because I don't wanna single out any person, but, like, what are some people that are, like, the ways that they're doing a really good job on, like, self-selling themselves?
Hmm.
And obviously yourself, like, you just mentioned about, like, sharing some deals or whatever, but, like, sometimes I feel like, "Oh, like, what is the agenda here?" Like, if I'm, like, a person, I'm getting a bunch of deal from someone, like, yeah, sure, I will send them some deals, but I wouldn't know that they want me to invest or, like, obviously not me particularly, but I'm just saying, like, from, like, a customer perspective, right? So, like, you were getting a bunch of, like it's kind of like an email newsletter, you're, like, recurringly sending someone something,
Hmm.
so that they could fill up with you, but, like, I wonder, when do you ask for the thing, right? Like, and then after asking, let's say people said no, or, like, people are like, "Yes, I will," and then, like, there's no it's like a ghosting period.
So
How
I
do you
think
send the next
it's the art of making them ask you
right.
you're fun. I think that's the part. Like, hey, I mean, you've been giving really good information to them. They like your
Mhm.
insight. They're gonna ask you questions. Hey, what do you think about this company? What do you think about this? And you just answer them. And hey, here's an interesting company you might want to take a look at. That's how you build a relationship. And by the way,
Yeah,
closing my fund in 6 months. Would you want to take a look at it? Because I would love to work with you. I think
right,
that's the process. Like, you just give them a deadline. Uh,
right. So
then
what if
they're
in the
gonna,
deadline you don't pull it off?
well, you lose them. I think it's a shot you have to take. And if they don't, if you can't pull it out, then you shouldn't be in this business, or find somebody else who's going to trust you again. That's the hardest part. Like, it's it's a tricky part, and it's hard for everybody, to be honest.
Also for the DAC, so, like, I've heard, like, mixing advices, so some people are saying, like, you should put the highest number. Let's say you want to create like, you want to close, like, $100 million fund, and then you put, like, $100 million on it. But, like, after all, like, let's say you raise, like, 50 million and, like, is that awkward for everybody? Or, like, since, like, the fund strategy is probably completely different from 50 million to 100 million,
Yeah.
versus, like, do you just put 50 million, but you accidentally raise 100 million? Of course, that's, like, a happy thing for everybody, but, like, that's also very different
I
from
mean,
the
being oversubscribed is always a good thing, I think.
yeah,
uh,
so basically put the small number on the deck or
but at the same time, you can't do that, because you people investing in your fund thinking you're a $50 million fund.
Mhm.
And I hate it when they say, hey, we're raising $50 million fund, but we're oversubscribed, so we're gonna go $100 million. No, like I'm
Mhm.
not investing in you because you're $100 million fund. I like your strategy as a $50 million fund. So it's your decision between would you like you know go for a bigger fund
Mhm.
and betray, to some extent, betray your LPs who thought you're running a $50 million fund, or would you just try to keep that at $60 million or $70 million and tell them, hey, we just had to give some more allocations to my great LPs, but the strategy will be same. So I wouldn't go like 50 to $100 million. 100 to 120 is fine, and but 50 to 100 is too much. So
Mhm.
there's a certain limit that LPs are okay with.
What does LP's portfolio construction look like?
It's different, like literally every VC has a different portfolio construction. Every LP has a different portfolio construction. So it's really different.
Do
And
people stick with a strategy, or like they pitch a strategy and then it's like all over the place kind of vibe?
that's exactly what we value. I mean, not that much on LP now right now, but that's exactly what LPs evaluate.
Mhm.
If after 2 years or when you're re-upping, they're gonna
Mhm.
look at, hey, did you do what you promised that you're gonna do to me, do
Mhm.
for me? So if that's again, that comes back to the trust issue. If you
Mhm.
say, hey, I'm gonna invest 50 companies and it's gonna be a small check, not a leading position, and do some club deals, and you actually read five, I mean 10 leading deals though, then that's not what LPs thought about you. And they have a portfolio construction, as you said, and they put specific PCs and specific buckets. And they thought, hey, I got you covered on that early stage small check deals, more visibility, but you actually did something else. So my portfolio is not going how I planned.
Mhm.
So I don't think LPs are gonna appreciate that.
Mhm. Do you send the deck at the 5th meeting or 1st meeting?
Well, I don't know. It depends. I mean, I
No.
sent
Yeah,
for
I don't want to get like, I don't wanna put you on the spotlight. You're like, "Should I share about me?" Maybe just the best practices. All the questions are for, like, best practices, not necessarily, like I don't want you to just give out, like, all the information about your fund. Like,
yeah. I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
the thing is, it's different from everybody. Again, it's all. I mean, it all depends. It's different. I mean, I sometimes send the deck on the first meeting.
Mhm.
I don't send the deck on the first meeting. Sometimes that's the hardest part. That's why it's people business. You just feel the vibes. What's going on? Is this
Yeah,
person
the web check.
numbers in the front, or is this
Mhm.
somebody who I should just hang out first and give him some information and interesting stuff? Then
Like,
nudge.
what should also be covered in the deck? Like, do you send, like, a generalist deck, like, just the vibe check thing? Or, like,
Mm,
do you send, like, every single detailed information about, like, the fund math? Or, like,
I think
what
it's
is, like, the
high
proof point?
level. Like you just need to do the high level because nobody is reading your deck until they actually decide to invest in you.
Oh,
Nobody's looking into your data room until they actually want to invest in you.
okay.
Because I don't think, I mean, it's me and my friends who thinks like LPs don't have time too. They don't have time
Yeah.
to do a single deck and spend 20 minutes on it. I think they
Um,
just sweep through like in 10 minutes, in a minute or two, and decide they're going to take the first meeting. And they do the meetings and they like it, then they dive into data room anyway. So
okay. Um, I wanna jump out of, like, the emerging manager vibe things, on the general trend hype cycle landscape, like, there's AI, there's deep tech, there is, climate.
mm,
Um, from the LP perspective, what's your thought process on, like, placing bets in these, like, major trends? Like, even, like, blockchain. I know that you started your career, like, not career, but, like, your video career in, like, talking about, like, the blockchain, crypto industry, right?
right.
I think I got, like, the most amount of, like, jump from, like, being a, like, quote, unquote, "influencer" from the crypto era as well. Um, like, how do you think about these, like, mega trends? And, I want crypto to come back, honestly, like, come back big time, but I wonder, like, what's your thought process on, like, these general hype cycles?
So as a VC and also sometimes maybe former LP, I would say I mean, I never believed in crypto, to be honest. I like blockchain, but I don't believe in cryptocurrency, to be honest.
Why? Okay, say your hot take. Say your hot take here, we'll click it.
um, I think crypto somehow like destabilizing current world order. Um, I like the way it is. I like dollar dominating the world. I like US leading the world. I don't want crypto to be something that's independent and change the world order. That's the whole point. I mean,
Why?
is that
As the economist of the world, but
well,
it's
I'm
still
not an economist of the world. I'm a VC in the United States. I want United States to be the dominant player forever. So I don't want something that changes our current dynamics. That's one and only reason. I mean, I like blockchain though. Blockchain might reduce the cost and it's going to make things more efficient, type of thing. So that's what I'm really excited about. But anything that threatens the power of dollar, I'm not a big fan of it. Because I'm
mm.
making dollar. Come on, Grace. You're earning dollars and you don't want that to be like not important currency.
Well, look, like, like, I this is, like, a random story, but, like, I think the first time I chat with someone on Fiverr to edit our podcast, they asked for cryptocurrency
Oh
in
my god.
payments. But anyway, so just saying where the word is going from my eye, but
Yeah.
anyway, so I wonder
No, I
what
think AI is interesting.
yeah, yeah.
I'm a big fan of AI. I mean, I stopped doing econometrics because I think AI is going to be a new thing, a more important thing, and I think that's happening. And the only thing is there's a little bit of bubble in AI for sure. Everybody knows, but again, even if there's bubble, there's some company that's going to be the biggest company in the history for us. In the next 5 years. So that's why everybody's really excited about it. Everybody's investing in AI, but I think we should be careful to some extent. And as a VC, I'm not focusing on AI investment as AI, but I love B2C stuff and applying AI onto B2C stuff. It's just I think AI is a great tool, but the technology itself is not an investment that I'm really excited about because there's a lot of bubble. It's more about, hey, Meta or OpenAI made a great product. I'd love to use that for a B2C product or technology for a lot of companies or a lot of people who are going to be using that. Because I don't know, that just application layer makes a lot more sense to me than the others. Um, Crypto, I don't know. Blockchain might come back at some point. It just takes time. But yeah, I think also the other thing is I love consumer stuff right now and Korean stuff right now because
Mhm.
again, nobody cares about them. I mean, Korean stuff, people care about the valuation, the multiples going up. But then consumer, I think
Oh,
it's
I have so many questions about the Korean stuff.
yeah,
So I'm a big fan of Korean culture and, growing up watching Korean drama and using Korean like beauty product
right.
as an Asian person is like super normal. And I wonder, why do you feel like Korean culture can like really fastly take over the world? So like obviously you've seen like them becoming like mainstream in the US, in like everywhere around the world. Like number one, it's like how does a kind of like culture kind of spread? And number two is like what's the investing opportunity associated with it?
So I think it's a good timing stuff. I think it's the
Mhm.
influencers and TikToks and those things actually worked out perfectly for
Right.
Korean items. It's
Mhm,
just it didn't have a lot of reach
mhm,
I mean impression. Like people there's always been great Korean culture, great
mhm,
Korean products, but there were not enough exposure to those. But
mhm,
now with the TikTok the
mhm,
product, the K beauty product is are amazing, not because it's a fad. It's more about
mhm,
the quality is great. Why the competition in Korea is fierce. I mean,
mhm,
if you are a surviving cosmetics company in Korea,
mhm,
you're world class because
mhm,
there's so many cosmetic companies in Korea, so
mhm,
many products in Korea. So if you survive in Korea, like you're
mhm,
surviving the hardest market. Then
mhm,
if you go out of your world, then the price is also very fair. And people realize that hey, this is a great products at a reasonable price. And the influencers started using them And I think, and also the BTS and the Korean dramas, Squid Game, all these things, I think they started. I mean, I think there was some trigger. And we had Gangnam Style,
Mhm,
but it didn't really resonate with everybody. It was more about funny, um, cool. I mean, more funny, like a meme type of
mhm,
culture, and that was not connected to actual K beauty product and everything. But BTS and Blackpink and Squid Game and other dramas, they actually got connected to the products in Korea and cultures and food and everything. It's not like Korean culture and everything has changed dramatically the last 3 years or 10 years
So,
and
why
become.
do you feel like it resonate with the world?
It was
Like
it was it was great. I mean, I think these cultures met in the middle. Like Korean culture was Korean, but also very Americanized, and they're getting
Mhm,
more and more Americanized.
mm,
That's also the effect of the impact of influencers and social
mhm,
media. Because Korean younger generation used to study in the U.S., going back to Korea, living the similar life. I mean, maintain the similar lifestyle, and also they watch this US or global like TikToks and everything. They pick whatever they like and use that in their life. And so the Korean culture becoming more global and US culture becoming more open to Korea. So I think they met in the middle. It's just a interesting coincidence, or they met in the middle. And I think as social media did a really really big role into it.
mhm,
And again, it's cultures being a little bit more global, and also the products were always good, but now they're connecting the dots and exploding right now.
mm. Um, what's the investing opportunity behind this? Because I think, like, from in 2018 when I was working in investing, like, literally there will be people investing in, like, Korean agencies of, like, making K-pop. So, like, I know there's, like, a lot, like, internet,
Right.
like, star agencies, right? Like, that's, like, very popular, and then also, like, there's a lot, like, the surgical stuff
Mhm.
or, like, the medical. I don't really know the key terms, like, basically Botox vibe stuff are, like,
Of
very
course.
popping
Yeah.
up, and, like, the micro, like, plastic surgery or something are, like, really popping up at that
Right.
point. Um, so a lot of the investing opportunity were coming out of these side. Um, what about now? Like, what's a overall outlook, and then why do you zoom into, like, K-beauty?
So I think K beauty is a great opportunity. I mean, K beauty product D2C investment is not easy. It's hard to pick, but
Mhm,
I'm more excited about the ecosystem and infrastructure.
mhm,
Like we one of our portfolio companies, Olive International, they spin
mhm,
up excuse me, they spin up K beauty brands.
mhm,
They own 6 brands right now. They come up with a specific demographic that they're targeting for their product, and they're selling the perfect product for specific demographics and run ads on those, and people love it. So
mhm,
it's a K product, K beauty product, but at the same time, it's
right,
more adjusted risk for us.
mhm,
And other things are K contents. I recently invested in an AI company that actually makes web novel. It's a, I think the word is turning into a big storyboard.
mhm,
Everybody has to have their own story. You and I are talking about our stories because
mhm.
these are good products. And I think the Korean dramas, Korean
Mhm.
webtoons, I mean the
It's
web.
so good. Like, can I just say, like, I feel like the Korean dramas are like there is templated. It's so templated, but it works so well. Like, I remember, like, in elementary, not elementary, I think maybe high school or like middle school, like these like the Korean books will be like sold out in like all our school,
Yeah,
and like my mom would be reading. My mom's downstairs right now, but like my mom would be reading it. Like other people would be reading it. It's like, oh, like people will be reading it in class. It's like a really crazy phenomena. And like also like the Korean stars, right? Like they're popping up in everywhere. Like people would really spend like thousands of dollars like as kids to go to these like concerts and like crazy stuff. So I wonder like what about K content that kind of like resonate with the universe? Like how do you really make a content that like repetitively working to the universe?
so I think it's just they're trying a lot of different things, and they try to understand how things work. And I think it's a weird thing, but people are trying to make this more scientific too. I
Mhm,
mean, the recent investment I made was AI company that actually makes web novels, It's
Mhm,
just helping the great storytellers
mhm,
come up with the stories, but it's like a Photoshop for novel writers.
mhm,
Writers,
mhm,
it's like a Canva for the writers, and they just have more time to experiment with this tool. We have some best this company has some best selling web novel writers which turned into web dramas and actual TV dramas at some point and movies as well, and they used to write about two books or two stories per year. With this
mhm.
tool they can write six or seven, so it's just giving them more opportunity to take shots and different formats and make it faster and more accurate and stable to some extent.
Like,
So,
how? Is this just AI generated content or, like,
you know,
what's
it's so one interesting thing is it just gives you whatever you write about a character, it just writes back to the character's information. So if you talk about new scene, hey, Grace just bought this one, and the AI remembers it and tells you next time when you talk about the character, hey, here are the things that happened to this character, so you don't miss a thing,
Oh,
and it
okay,
actually
wow.
helps.
That's something that I've never thought of.
And it also like, hey, you talked about this event like 3 books ago, and
3 books ago?
then you're actually
Like
make a contradiction here, that
yeah,
kind of stuff. So
okay,
you don't have
okay,
to go back
wow.
and check. AI is going to check everything for you. The other thing is you can also set the tone. This is a new feature that they're developing and finalizing right now. Is you can hey, the story starts with this, but
Mhm,
this is the climax, it goes down, and AI
right,
will change the tone of the language
mhm,
to make them more immersive when it comes to like
mhm,
the writer can set the tone for that specific episode. So
mhm,
it just helps you, and they're going to fill out some of things based on what they have done in the past. If there's a the writing style, if you want to have a filler, if it's too short, you can actually ask AI to fill that up and you can edit it. So it's not 100% AI generated, it's still written by the best selling writers, but it's making life there easier and faster type of
mhm,
thing. And I think they're being used for, I think the goal is to actually turn this product into a more B2C product. So if you make shorts on YouTube, you're going to come up with your own stories, and this tool will help you writing it. And if you want to make a webtoons or web dramas, this tool is going to help you on that. And I think it's just good timing. That's why I actually joined Primary Sazze as well. That now is the time that we're gonna have a great Korean culture renaissance.
Renaissance, yeah.
And I think
What's
outsourcing
the story company's name?
picks. It's still very early stage. They're working with about 7 or 8 writers right now,
Okay,
but I think they're gonna go more B2C in a year or two. I'll let you
yeah,
know. You can use
yeah,
that tool. I'm
that's
actually
PEAK?
PEEK, PEEK, PEEX actually, PIX. Um, and I'm actually going to use this because I imagine the word at some point that you're actually starting to write on your web novel, and that's going to be your side job. And
Yeah, yeah,
you can actually make a YouTube out of stories these days automatically using AI. So you just need to come up with the great stories and then put it into some AI tool that's going to make them YouTube shorts and post it online. I think it's gonna
yeah,
be help. It's gonna help you, do your side job. I'm actually asking the CEO to let me use that so that I can start writing web novel and post it on the marketplace. And if people buy it, I'm gonna make money out of it.
totally. Um, I don't know if you have a few more minutes. I really enjoyed the conversation, but I also wanna be mindful of the time.
I have some time.
Okay. So I wanna double click on like, the storytelling part, like or this like industry in general. So like how do you pick which company is actually gonna succeed? Obviously, this product seems like a really novel product, but on the other hand, I'm pretty sure like whenever you find one company does X, there's like 45 company that does a X-ish thing.
Yeah,
So
I think it's there's not much of technology due diligence when it comes to AI
mhm.
applications to some extent because everybody's using the best model.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's more about how you trust, how much you like the team, for me, and how aligned our visions are. Like I like this product because the CEO's great person. I'd love to
Mhm,
hang out with him, I'd love to work with him. I want to help him. That's one thing. The other thing is the way he think about this product and how that's going to end up is exactly how I think about it. Because
Mhm,
I've done some research on this. I actually wrote about this on my Korean newsletter, and then I was looking for a company that fits into my thesis, and I met this person, and we talked about this, and we just have the same vision of what's going to happen in the world, and that's where I can help him. And the other thing is, I think as a VC, your role is actually helping them navigate the capital markets and raise funds, and making them more visible to the investors and users as well. So that's why we do podcasts and everything, so that we can have some audience that I can tell them, hey, now I'm talking about peaks. People are going to be interested in peaks, and they're going to try to use it.
mhm,
So it's less about the companies being successful by themselves, but also, am I want to be part of this journey and help
mhm,
him have more visibility and being
mhm,
successful? So I care a lot about alignment between the team and myself, their vision, and
mhm.
how much time I want to spend with them. Because if I don't like them, I wouldn't help them out, because that takes my own personal credit
Mhm.
and also time. So that's what I care the most.
Totally. What are some like what's your investment thesis at Sazze?
So I think I mean, I like consumer because nobody cares about consumer right now. I mean, there are a lot of people who loves it, but I'm just
Yeah.
saying, like,
I think in Silicon Valley, we're kind of biased, like, but if you live in LA or New York, I'm sure,
yeah,
like, everyone's doing something consumer.
yeah. I think it's relatively less like focused area,
Mhm.
and I think that's where the opportunity is. The multiples lower. That's what I brought. I love Forerunner people. They do great research.
Right.
I read
Mhm,
their reports all the time, um, and and I think AI in general, like everything's going to be AI. I don't think
mhm,
there's specific, oh, I'm an AI investor. It's everybody says the same thing, but like it's like saying you're a software investor. It's or internet investor, like mobile
mhm.
investor. So
Yeah, exactly.
everything's going to be AI, and we also invest in deep tech a lot
Mhm,
because we think there are a lot of great Korean talent who are engineers,
mhm,
um, great talent, very hungry, and they just don't know how to sell their
mhm.
product or how to raise money in the U.S., which I think is a big arbitrage for us. I can help them raise money. I can help them expand to the U.S. They just have a great product and great skill set. So those are the biggest areas. So in terms of deep tech, we do bio, also robotics, um, all many different. I mean, semiconductors a little bit, and consumer we do platforms, SaaS companies. Sometimes I recently invested in B2C SaaS company that is similar to Notion plus Canva, and it's an Australian
Mhm,
company that I love. Um, I'll let you know about this company once it's finalized, but we do a lot of, I mean, we mostly invest in Korean founders. I mean, they don't
mhm.
have to be Korean, but any individuals with the Korean heritage, which is, I think, something that I can find better, I can evaluate better, and I can sell better to them. I mean, I can win the deal better than anybody else. So, and we believe now is the time to invest in Korean related stuff, because the second wave of Korean companies are coming to the US through K beauty and K pop and K food and K culture. So I respect Altus guys. I love Han Kim and Honam, their team, and they were the first generation um, Korean American VC that found great Korean trends and became very successful. I think we're actually looking at the second wave of Korean startups globally, or Korean companies coming to global, and I want to be part of that journey or that wave, and become the next Altus. That's our dream.
I have so many questions about the expansion just because, like, coming from, like, a similar culture as, like I mean, I'm not Korean, but, like, coming from a similar, like, Asian culture, like, I've seen a lot of company trying to go abroad, like, but it's all, like, not necessarily doing the best outcome. Obviously, I feel like
Right.
TikTok is like a really successful example, but like on the other hand, like they're facing so many challenges. I don't even know how many company have to like go through before like there's a one TikTok exists, right? Um, what's your thought process on like going abroad and like what's a go-to-market strategy to connect them to American investors? Because like a lot of American investors, they may not really care about like
Exactly.
where the stuff is coming from.
So I think the big thing is that I like companies that are actually starting in the US,
Mhm,
having engineering talent in Korea,
mhm,
which saves a lot of money for the team.
mhm.
Uh, and I think that most of the companies that I look into is they're Korean founders, but also has some exposure to the US and
Right.
experience in the US. So it's similar to Israel. I think Israel is a great example that we're trying to replicate or follow. Is they don't talk about global because all their companies are global company from
Mhm,
day one. They think about the market as US market as their market. And I want Korean companies, Korean startups to do the same thing. I mean, it's harder. I mean, I talk about this in my podcast too, but then it's hard for a Korean company who's successful in Korea, flip over to the US, expand to the US. It's very, very few company that can actually pull that off. But I'm more focusing on companies who are actually starting or targeting US market as their first main market and then expand from there. And maybe they can just go back to Korea because they were very successful in the US,
mhm.
but not a successful Korean company coming to the US is my main target
Got
because
it.
I agree it's hard.
How do you filter out these founders? Because I feel like the founders that will succeed or like take over the world are like different than like the local superstars, right?
Yeah. First of all, I think they have to sell really well in English.
Mhm,
So, and I do some of my pitch in English as well, so that I can see if they can sell in the US. I think that's the biggest thing, and again, how much I like about this person's thesis and how much they understand about US market, like what's trending in the US, how you check
mhm,
your company processes in the US, how you can I mean find the competition in the US. You just need to be used to like looking up things in the US, which is very common in Korea. Like they're very I think, they know a lot about, they know how to use PitchBooks, they know how to use Crunchbase, they know how to use Reddit. So a lot of younger founders are actually really good at those. They're
mhm.
very global. So I don't find hard time finding that kind of talent in people.
I think understanding US culture is like a really hard measurement just because like as a consultant, so like I have a lot of like consulting client coming from like Asia or like somewhere else, like
Right.
that's not US, and then they will ask me, will this work in the US? Basically, they're building something that's like popular in their local country, local ish area, and then like basically they will be like, will this be successful in the US? And then like they need someone else to tell them because like they actually didn't really live somewhere for a long
Right.
enough. How do you like kind of judge like if someone would really pull off the sales? Obviously you can introduce them to like an investor or someone can, you can see if they will be able to close, but like what are some like measurement that you would take to be like, okay, I think you can like make this work.
Yeah, some of the investment that I made, I mean, one of the investment I made recently was they already have 100,000 users and 50,000 K Korean, I mean, US clients.
Right, like the numbers.
Yeah, she just knows how to say. I mean, she didn't target anybody, but she just had a really good product, so everybody from the US are using it, and that's an easy way to do it. But then, for B2C products, that's fine. B2B, I think it's more about like, can you sell it to me? Is one thing.
Mhm,
Like, am I willing to buy your product? I used to buy like data products at some point of my career,
mhm,
and I've dealt with a lot of salespeople in B2B sales,
mhm.
and I can feel like, hey, this person might be able to sell it. It's exactly the same process as our fundraising, to be honest. So, but again, I digress. It's Yeah, I think it's about, can you sell it to me, or we have friends who can actually take a look at the product and hey, this might work, type of thing. And that's also your network. Like I like some company and show it to my friends. Hey, what do you think? And we have EIRs at Sazze
Mhm,
Partners who are unicorn founders in the US. Sandbird,
mhm,
Moloko, Noom, Physical Note, and those are Korean
mhm,
Americans who are very
mhm.
successful in the
Oh,
US.
physical no Tim Huang was in my book, like, back in 2016 when I was writing my first book. I know, I like It was like I was in my early 20s. Let's just put it that way. But yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
he's a great guy. I feel like he's a very charismatic person.
I agree, and he's on our in our advisor. He's one of our advisors, so we get help from them as well. So that's how we think about measuring the founders and the products in the US.
Mhm. Um, what are some like you mentioned about like deep tech. So like I went to TechCrunch
Uh huh.
and like there were like a lot of Korean company. First of all, really shout out to the I need to get the name right. Sorry. I need to
Kotra.
yeah, Kotra. I
Hmm.
wanna say a big thank you to Kotra team for, like, inviting me to the TechCrunch event. Shout out to Audrey particularly. So, I want to know, like, when you were like, I saw a lot of really great, like, deep tech companies there. How do you filter out, like, which company like you should invest in because for example, let's call it like if you're starting like a private plane company, like what is the market that how do you study the market and then especially cross border, like if they're selling the product to the US, obviously if they have track record to sell like their product or like signing some sort of contract, that's great. But like what if in the earlier stage when there's like two engineers, like what's a vibe there?
It's a really hard investment, to be honest. Like deep tech,
Mhm,
and the deep tech funds are hard and companies are hard. I mean, in terms of technology, we have two PhDs in the house, mechanical engineers,
mhm,
MIT graduate, Berkeley graduate. They actually look into the technology that we know, that they know.
mhm,
That actually helps them. They also have the network that who did PhD and experts in other areas in terms of deep
mhm,
tech. So they actually use their network to evaluate their technology. But even if the technology is good, it's hard to know if that's going to be fine for the next 7 years or 8 years. What about the paradigm changes? What
mhm,
about that there's a new patent coming out? It's really risky investment, to be honest. But I think the upside is so big. Um, we are looking into some semiconductor companies that are doing different thermodynamics. I don't know anything about it, but
mhm,
our experts think that's a great technology, and if it's successful, the upside is massive. That's how
mhm,
we think about these deals, and we try to support them by bringing in some strategic investors too. We actually have a really good Korean network who are doing. Korean companies are Samsung's doing the best semiconductors, and Alex is doing a big deal there. SK Hynix doing great. We have friends there who's going to come
mhm,
in and, hey, do you want to invest in this company with us?
mhm,
Or do you like this company? And we actually evaluate them through them. And
mhm,
so we use our network mostly and internal
mhm,
in-house expertise to evaluate them. But at the end of the day, it's the upside that we're really more excited about in the deep tech companies.
mhm. Um, I wanna be mindful of the time, so I wanna have, like, a one real question and then a quick one-minute fire round for you. First of all, like, how do you think about the beauty space on investments? So, like, for example, I feel like there's so many amazing Korean beauty product. Is that the product you're investing in? Or, like, you mentioned about in the infrastructure. What does that mean? Is that, like, the manufacturing technology or, like, go to market? Like, what's the
So a
vibe
few companies that I'm really excited about is enabling influencers coming up with their own beauty products from Korea.
there?
I'm looking into that company. They're going to actually handle everything for the company, for the influencer who wants to start their own brand. Uh,
Right.
the minimum required or MOQ, minimum order quantity, are pretty high for a lot of cosmetic products. But there are some companies in startups in Korea trying to reduce that so that you can start your new product line with 1,000 orders or 600 orders. Then
How? Is that just like bulk deal? Like, let's say you have like 40 influencers that are ordering at the same time.
they're finding a small like unknown factories who's going to do that for you, and still keeping the quality really high. They're going to do the quality check as well.
I in fact, I actually saw a lot of these like companies that does similar-ish thing in China, but like I think the factory that passing the exam of the government or like from like the quality check perspective is not that many.
Yeah, yeah. So
So it's like you like sure L'Oreal use this, so you use this to create your product too. Like that's kind of like the vibe there. Um, what does that look like in Korea? Is that like just every small manufacturer have the like
yes,
lesson?
there's so many manufacturers, and the crazy thing about Korea is we have from ingredients and packaging, the entire value chain is in Korea, and it's very optimized, and there are
Right.
a lot of players there. So there's always, somebody who's going to do it smaller batches for the exact customers, still at a good quality level. So that's a company that's the type of company that I was excited about. The other thing is bringing K beauty to the US. It's there's still more like great Korean brands, and how to bring them to the US and sell it in the US is one thing that I'm really excited about. And I'm
Mhm,
also really excited about supply chain companies. This is like non-Korean thesis to some extent, but we're getting into a world that AI is actually personalizing everything,
mhm,
and the products are getting more diversified and with
mhm,
less quantity. So
mhm,
it used to be the 3PLs or these warehouses handle like pallets of goods, but
mhm,
then the goods are really small boxes now and
mhm,
in different types. So there's got to be some innovation in supply chain management when it comes to high variety, low quantity products. That's something that I'm looking for. This is a pain point that I hear from all these K beauty product companies.
mhm,
So that's how we roll. Like we like the brands. We invest in more risk adjusted big brands or our platform that's actually doing that. And we also look into the connector between the other two markets, and
mhm,
also but the infrastructure that's enabling them.
mhm.
That's the beauty space that we're really, really excited about.
Amazing. Okay, so quick fire round. First question, um, what's your skincare routine? It's getting personal.
I have so many, to be honest. Like when I wake up, I go for the sunscreen. Like whenever I wake up, I put sunscreen on.
What's your favorite sunscreen?
Wow, there's too many. I actually get a lot of samples. There's one
Uh,
Korean brand called 성분 Editor. I don't think
okay.
or 조선미녀. Those are on Amazon. Those are
Okay.
really good,
Yeah, you need to send us a link because your skin
yeah.
looks great. Yeah.
And that's the first thing. And I do like I'll show you this. These type of beauty products.
Oh my god.
I have
Yeah.
I have
Oh,
a ton of this because I get a lot of samples in free product. But this is I mean I paid for this, and I try this whenever I go to Korea because I think when it comes to beauty, if you're in Korea, it feels like you're living in the future. So I
I
try.
know. I
I'm
hear about this all the time from like
yeah.
yeah, from
I know I have friends at Olive so I go
Oh,
there.
I love that. Like, I order everything, like, Korean beauty from the website directly because it's, like, amazing.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So, and I have some friends who has their own brand, and the routine. I don't know. I just sunscreen is the biggest thing. I just put it in the morning whenever I wake up, and just I think that's the most important part. And at night, I do a lot of different stuff. I
Okay.
just put candles in my bathroom, and I just try new things every night and see how it feels. And if I like the brand, I just talk to the CEO and hey.
Well, I love your life. Your life sounds, like, amazing to me, honestly. You like the product, so you talk to the CEO.
Exactly.
You gotta invest in you. I
Yeah. So
think
I try
amazing.
to use everything on my own and give it to my family and stuff. So
Oh, wow. I'm pretty sure a lot of the listeners would be like, "Can we just work for you here?" But,
let me know. We're
um,
hiring. So
what's your favorite book?
book. I don't read a lot of books to be honest. I read a lot of newsletters.
Mhm.
Uh, but my favorite book, I would say the I don't know the Freakonomics. That's something that I
Yeah.
always love. That's something
Yeah,
I
yeah,
always
yeah.
like. I mean, used to be an
Classic
economist.
one.
Yeah,
Mhm.
those
They
are.
have a podcast too.
I know, I know. I
Yeah.
love that. It just twists how you think about the word.
Mhm.
Um, that's the book that I read a lot whenever I have a free time.
Who would you invite to your dinner party?
Who I would invite to my dinner party?
Mhm.
My LPs, but
Send them this clip.
see, that's exactly how I roll. Very
Uh,
loyal to my LPs.
oh,
Every
wow.
LP is of mine. I don't know, some influencer. Brett Feld was a big. I'm a big
Oh,
fan of.
yeah, yeah. He's
Yeah,
in the book too. So he's like one of the first person like I feel like I connected in the big time venture world
right. Yeah.
on the internet. But yeah, like shout out to Brad. He's like so nice. Um who made the biggest impact in your career?
We'll see. I don't know. My current team, I guess. So I went to KIC because my Sazze partners, managing partners, actually recommended me to talk to them.
Mhm,
And I think I met so many great friends at KIC, to be honest, and learned so much. I wouldn't have thought about it if it wasn't my current founders, like primary Sazze founders. I met those guys at 2020 or 2019. It's
mhm.
pretty recent. We became friends through their events. They actually host a really big events for Korean Americans and for Korean startup ecosystem every year here in Silicon Valley. This year, I think they had. I mean, we had about 1,100 people.
Mhm.
Next year, we're gonna have 1,500 people. We're doing it in the Redwood City Fox Theater in January.
Oh, wow, that's a big one.
It's a big one, and I'm actually hosting them. It's so funny that I met all my founders or our partners at that event in 2020, and we became friends. And they've been helping me, hey, you know, getting into deals and kind of stuff, and also introducing me to the KIC. And I met a lot of great friends at KIC. And after my time at KIC, they were like, hey, why don't you join us? And that's the reason I joined them. And I'm having so much fun. And I'm also helping. One funny thing is I always wanted to be part of more white society, to be honest. Like I
What
never
does that
interact,
mean?
I never worked in a Korean company before KIC.
Oh, wow. Mm.
And I didn't want to work for Korean companies because, it's I didn't want to be, I don't know, it was not some random identity crisis at a really late age, but
Random identity crisis.
I
Oh my god.
wanted to be part of the mainstream. I always thought Korean culture was not the mainstream. Um, and
Korean culture is mainstream big
it
time.
is now, but it wasn't when when I was, going to school and all that kind of
I
stuff.
see what you're saying, yeah.
Yeah. And then now I realized that I'm missing a big part of my life.
Mhm,
And these are my partners at Primary Science were the ones who remind me that, hey, this being Korean is cool. And you can make a lot of money for being Korean and leveraging
mhm,
what you have. Just don't give up whatever you have to become part of the group that you want to be part of. Just
mhm,
be yourself and you're gonna figure out how you can do your job the best. And now I'm really happy because then I'm supporting a lot of Korean founders and helping them become really, really successful and building our network. Like it's just, I mean, now I'm discovering what I had in my in me and realizing the Nobel Prize winning of in literature for by Hangang was a big reminder. I wrote a really long LinkedIn post about it. I never post long things in LinkedIn because I never read it. Whenever I see a long post, like, what are you talking about? I don't have time for it.
mhm,
But it's just a moving part that being Korean is cool now. I know maybe it sounds like very opportunistic, but I just realized that you can't just deny who you are and what you have in you, and just try to leverage it, use whatever you have, and it just really really makes me happy that I can work with this Korean community and helping the ecosystem grow bigger and better.
last question. Where
Yeah.
can we find you outside of work?
Whew. I'm always work. So that's the big
You're
thing.
always working.
You're always working. I
True.
mean, there's no work-life balance, especially me because I work in Korean hours too. So right now, Korea's sleeping. At the evening, Korea wakes up, and I talk to Korean founders in Korea and Korean LPs in Korea. So
Yeah.
it's 24/7. But I try to run every morning. And then I used to play golf, but I don't play golf because I don't have time to get out there for like
Mhm,
4 hours and 5 hours anymore. But outside of work, I'm mostly writing on the YouTube. Um, I run my YouTube channel now, and yeah, I just spend a lot of time researching on different topics. And my newsletter is weekly, so I do a lot of research and talking to people about specific sectors. So outside of work, you can find me on my newsletter. That's
Amazing. Okay, now shout out to your newsletter. Please give your newsletter and YouTube channel a plug.
So, I mean, my newsletter, you can find it on my LinkedIn page. My
Mhm,
English newsletter is Money Behind Money. It's a lot of LP stories.
mhm,
I just realized that LP word is very opaque,
mhm,
and people don't know what's going on behind the
mhm,
door. So that's what I wanted to help them. I'm just so busy right now, so
mhm,
I couldn't write a lot, but I'm actually writing one about K beauty. It's called Money Behind Money. The other
mhm,
one is Silicon Valley Weekly, so it's in Korean. So if
mhm,
you're Korean and you can read Korean, then please find it on my LinkedIn page as well. Um,
mhm.
it's a weekly stuff, and I actually started like what you're doing in Korea too. I'm actually interviewing Korean VCs every week. Um,
That's amazing.
yeah, I'm just helping them. I think it's a lot about visibility. So in Korea, it's similar to the US, but even more in terms of like visibility of the
Mhm,
VCs to startup founders. A lot of startup founders try to talk to the VCs, but it's very closed doors. You have to
mhm,
have a warm intro to meet them, and it takes a lot of time for you to understand what they want. So I'm
mhm,
just doing 30-minute podcast with every VCs I know in Korea and helping them. Hey, what are you looking for? What type of
mhm,
founders to go to you? And I'm thinking about expanding to the US friends. I mean, I'm talking to some of my US VC friends and to be on the pod, but I just want to make sure that
mhm,
um, they need again this is also sales. Like I'm
mhm,
talking to my friends who needs to raise money from Korean LPs
mhm,
or who wants to look into Korean founders so that they're not wasting time for me. Hey, if you're on my pod, you're gonna a lot of Korean LPs watch my YouTube and read my newsletter. And what's funny was I started writing this newsletter while I was VMG, which is a consumer VC fund up in
It's
Presidio.
the top one. Yeah, yeah, it's one of the top ones. Yeah.
Yeah, and I started writing this newsletter. It was COVID. I didn't have anything else to do, and
Mhm,
then a lot of Korean people started reading it. It's not that big, but for Korean population, it's about 7,500. And the Korean startup and VC LP ecosystem is pretty small in terms of numbers, but in terms
right.
of dollars, it's huge. And then when I moved to Primer Sage, and then I announced on my newsletter, a lot of people replied to me, "Hey, I'm your LP now. Like, you
Mhm.
gotta come
Oh,
talk
wow.
to me." And it was really fun. I actually went to Seoul and met them, and they really liked that I joined Sazze Partners.
Mhm,
And so if you want some exposure to Korean LPs, hit me up. Be on my podcast. I'll help you find the right partners in Korea. Again, this
mhm.
is all sales, so
Oh,
you
wow.
just
I love that. Ian, thank you so much for coming on the show. I know that you have to go now, but it's been amazing chatting with you.
thank you, Grace. It's fun. It was nice meeting you in person last week too.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you so much again.
All right. Thank you, Grace. Have a good day.
Thank you, you too. Let me quick